Hi everybody, I'm Scott Bowman. I am the LEGO ambassador for the Idaho LEGO user group. I am also the owner, creator, and only employee of ideaBRICKworks, where I create and design both kits and events using LEGO. I thought I would do I just did the recent build that I think is of interest, and I thought I would look at giving you somewhat of a review. So what I'm going to review is the new for 2019 42096. It's the 911 RSR race car. This is a formula that's by the FIA GT3. Somewhat surprisingly, I'm actually a deputy race director for what's called SRO, World Challenge GT. And this is a series, a professional racing series, that uses just these cars. So when this came out, I love Porsches. I do own a 911 now, an older one. And so I had to get it. But I get to see these things in action, and these are just incredibly awesome machines. They sound incredible, they go incredible, very competitive. The series itself is very competitive, and we just had, SRO just had an 8-hour race at Laguna Seca in Monterey, California, and they did very well. They actually ended second. Interestingly enough, they run the number 911 and 912, and we had both of those car numbers. Now, there's lots of these, but if you see it in this livery, this kind of the black and red and accents, that is going to be a factory Porsche team. So that car, the driver team, driver setup will be professional. So onto the model. It was logical to bring out the previous RSR, this is obviously a street car. But they represent a similar car, being a street version and being a pure race version. But I just kind of thought it was interesting to look at the two of them. Again, there's some difference, 3-4 years now, between what the actual years are. This is a new car for Porsche this year. So 2019, it's competing for the first time in the world, and so it's turned into a very potent race car, and so again, that's going to extend the Porsche legend even farther. So as far as a review, one thing is, it's interesting to note that this is bigger, even though it seems like it's similar size, and as I was building this, I thought it was a similar size, but it really isn't, probably by about, I don't know, 20-25%. Even the wheel sizes, if you look at the size of the wheels, you look at that wheel size versus this wheel size, you'll see that it's hard to show on the video, that dimension, these are bigger as well. As would be typical with a Technic type kit, this being more the premier, very high level, if I remember right, this was a $300 or a $400 set. Well worth it. It has much more function. I've actually added door locks to it. But so, this idea of this one having the whole working transmission and everything is very much a that build event, and so for many reasons this is still an incredible build. I put it on my second all-time. My first all-time build is the Saturn V, and this is the second most fun build, and just even the packaging and everything is pretty incredible for the Porsche. So again, really worthwhile getting it while you still can. I think it's still available, but again, this is a much higher level, larger model. So let's put it aside a little bit so that I can talk a little more about. So the RSR, it's got, it's a really fun build, 1,580 parts. Not as much as functional on this car. It does have a full suspension, which is kind of fun. It does have a pretty complex differential system in the back, and I'll show you why in a minute. But very little is functioning. The doors do function and do open up. The steering wheel actually does move the front wheels. Again, the lighting in here is not the best either. I've got to think about doing that. But it does work. It's kind of fun. I think it's a little bit too high in the rear end. Since I can critique Lego's builders, I wish it was just a bit down. In real life, these cars are very low, very low. And we regulate the performance of the car through what's called a balance of performance, BOP. And it is things like ride height, and sometimes we'll have inlet restrictors, usually weight and ride height and wing angles and some of those things. It's a lot of fun. I really like the way the Technic pieces work on this. In some ways it works a little better. One thing that's really aggressive is the nose of the true car has some really dramatic vents, because it does vent for the water cooling portion through the radiator in front, so it comes in through and up through the hood, and of course the hood is part of the downforce of the total amount of the car. The interior is pretty neat. The decals are pretty fun. I think they're well done, and as far as the orientation goes, again, it's a lot of fun. The front air dam is pretty aggressive. And as you look at there's a couple of big gear pieces that form the bottom of it. Another complaint I would have is I do not like these. I've been thinking about how I might improve that, but I know why they did it, because the lighting on the new RSRs and the new 911s is pretty aggressive with these 4 LED front headlights, which look pretty imposing if it's coming up behind you at 160 miles an hour. So, I know that's a feature they wanted to somehow augment, and I just don't think this did it very well. But, that's kind of me. The back, and that you do have access into the back, and I know it's going to be hard to see, but inside is a flat 6. And you can see the crankshaft and the pistons move. So it's kind of fun. It's connected to the differential, so as you move the car back and forth, you'll be able to see the gears move. That's really the only opening panel other than the doors. Otherwise, it really is more of a static. You know what it reminded me of? As a kid, I built plastic models. And, this to me was like a large-scale model, and that had a lot of detail, that was mostly from the surface, that I didn't have to paint, that I didn't have to cut apart, that I didn't have to trim, sand, and that. So, in many ways where I'm at now, this was a lot of fun. And of course I really love the car, and I get to see the car on this particular type of car on a regular basis. So it was fun to build in that way. I have already made one improvement. I didn't like the way, this is a center support for the windshield, and the reason that is in most race cars is they're replacing the glass windshield with a bulletproof Lexan type, much lighter assembly, but it doesn't have the same ability to bridge, and so they usually put a structural support in the center that allows it to press against that, because when this car gets up to a couple 100 miles an hour, which is easy to do with this particular car, there is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of downforce that's generated on these cars, so they do get a lot of pressure on the body work, that type of thing. So again, it's kind of fun. It's got the fun antennas. I do think it's kind of funny that this is a sword piece that is one of the antennas. Typically, these cars have data that is going back to the team, and it can't be bi-directional. It can only be from the car back to the team. so that the team knows what's happening to the car. Very complex computer systems in these cars, and as far as the controls. Our particular series, we get the data from every single time the car is on the track, and so we are looking at all these parameters that we want to control as part of the balance of performance. And so our data people, who are incredibly talented people, take all this data, and then we'll look at this as composed to a Bentley, as opposed to a Lamborghini, as opposed to a Corvette, as opposed to any of the high performance cars out there. Aston Martins are in there now. McLarens, which LEGO does support McLaren as well, and I'm hopeful that that new McLaren Senna, that'd be fun if this becomes the scale that might come in. So anyway, I think it's well worth it. Frankly, I actually have forgotten how much it costs now, but it was something that I was just going to get no matter what. So again, fun build. I know a lot of the history of the car and the brand. You know, I did want to show it has this really aggressive under tray. Let's see if you can see that under tray. And these are part of the rear diffuser, and a huge percentage of the downforce of these cars is by the under tray, and so then this rear diffuser, so and the air dam at the front. So all of these things work together to create cars that can go very, very quickly. And the Porsche has always been a handling car. It does give up some horsepower to some of the other brands, but it more than makes up in its agility in the race course. So its handling, it can often take corners significantly faster than some of the other competition. And so, you know, the thing about a Porsche is it's lower horsepower, very light. They tend to make their cars very light as compared to other manufacturers, and nimble. And that's how they've always been as successful as they've been, through that combination and the way they do it. So again, I know there's not a lot of close-ups of it, but I thought that this is a unique aspect that I know about GT3. I know about the racing that these cars go through. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope to do more of these. So come back and look at ideaBRICKworks and my YouTube channel, and I look forward to the next build. So play well.